I can.
Want your name?
Is it down low?
So, you said you wanted to, one time you said you wanted to go back to when you were born, but I wanted to know
You don't care about that?
when you were born again. When did you
I was about...
When did you become a Christian?
Okay. I was 12 years old, and we went to a meeting in a little church, country church, and the Moody Bible people were there, and they presented beautiful music and everything, and they asked people to come forward if they wanted to be saved. And I raised my hand, but I didn't feel like I wanted to do anything. I didn't want to go forward. So when we got home, my mama brought me in her bedroom, and she talked to me some more. And I said, oh yes, I want to accept Jesus as my Savior.
Yeah, one time you said that you thought that everybody was a Christian or something like that. What did you mean, like everybody in the world, or everybody in your state, or everybody in your community?
Well, just people I knew, I guess. You know, for a long time it seemed like, why don't people know this more about the Bible? Why don't they know? Why don't we talk more about it? You know, I felt like, and then sometimes people will talk about something about the Bible, but they don't seem to know about it. You know, really, they're just talking about it. And I didn't realize the importance of speaking up and asking people more things, what they know about the Bible.
Well, it's my understanding of the Christian faith that you choose to believe in God, and then He reveals Himself to you, like one step at a time kind of a thing.
Right.
Like James 4, it says, draw close to God and He'll draw close to you. So I was wondering, when you took the step toward Him, how do you would describe that He revealed Himself to you?
Well, little by little. You know, I had more Bible study. Mr. Polly was a really good Bible study, and I began to realize, and He reveals it, God reveals it, things more to us as you read the Word, and you begin to understand it. And we did have persecution in my family at that time, because my mom and dad belonged to a group in the community that was called the Merrymakers, 12 Merrymakers or something like that. And they were some of the relatives, had Elsie and Uncle Elmer and other neighbors there that they knew real well. So when Mom and Dad got really saved, they said, we don't feel like we should join in with them. They would play rook or something and sing, and they didn't do anything that, I don't know why. I felt like they should not have stopped that, because then they were called holy rollers, and there's something wrong with them. They don't want to fit in with us anymore, you know.
So you mean to tell me that you were there when your mom and dad got saved too?
Yeah, they were saved. Well, they learned the Bible more while we were in Denver. They had a Bible teacher in that church. Pastor wasn't a Bible teacher, but Mrs. Davis got them down and told them the way of salvation that they needed, if they really made a commitment. And that was just before I made my decision.
So, like for instance, your dad, he was already a Christian, but he had to kind of like rededicate himself?
I don't know. Mom said she went to a revival meeting when she was young, and she wanted to accept Christ as her Savior, but I don't think, she didn't have anything after that to follow up. So she always felt like she was a Christian, you know, but after she began learning the Bible, she really understood more about it.
Yeah.
And Dad the same way. He grew in grace later.
Did the war, did that have anything to do with just the dramatic effect of that, with him going over to the war? Or did that have anything to do with him like drawing closer to God?
No, this was before then. This is way before the Second World War.
Well, he was in World War I, though,
yes,
right?
Yes.
That was 1918
I don't
or something.
think that had anything to do with it.
No, okay. Well,
because he wasn't married then. He came back and got married. See, that was way before I was born.
Yeah. Another thing, fast forward a few years, and then you had, you know, the Bible talks about in James again, it talks about turn your laughter to mourning and, you know, weeping man, and then He will turn your sorrows into joy kind of a thing. So you had sorrows of, like, for instance, when firstborn was passed away, and
Yes.
then your dad, your husband passed away, and then Tim passed away. So has God how did He comfort you from
Yes.
those mornings?
I mean, it was just such a peace, abiding peace. I remember during the funeral, I marched out of there and I wasn't even crying. And I felt kind of silly not being sad. But I didn't grieve that much till later. In fact, I don't think I really went through a grieving session. I didn't realize about that, because I knew I had to pick up and go on and take care of my children, But it was just a peace in me that all was well and that He was going to take care of us. And I had to help find something to do. And I remember the morning I started out in my car and drove, so where am I going to do? I have to make some money. And I started driving to Franklin from Burdett.
Yeah.
And of course the hospital's the first thing you come to. And I had worked in hospitals, so I went in there and asked for an application like. And I said, oh yeah, come on. So she gave me a typing test, and they were just nonchalant about it. I think I made 50 words anyway. And then they took me to one of the head men that was supposed to be hiring people, And he said, oh, put her in there with the telephone operator. So the other girl tried to train me on that on the telephone, which is not a very big idea, but she worried me to death about, well, don't call Dr. So-and-so, don't ever page him when he's in the office, because he doesn't want everybody to know he's in the building. And so I had to think about a whole lot of that stuff, and finally I got so weary about it and upset that I would start crying, and Mrs. Smithfield was my immediate boss. She said, why don't you just go home and come back tomorrow morning? And I thought, okay. So I went home, and she took me the next morning, and they went with the other head man for applying for work. Anyway, he said, why don't you put her in admitting? So they had a program on the computer, and I knew how to type, and I knew how to read. So all you had to do is fill out these forms on the computer, And I did fine there. And I was really happy, and so I thanked Mrs. Smithwick for helping me there.
I wondered about that. So there was nobody from the church that got you that job or
No.
anything? You just decided to go there on your own? Oh, that's good.
Yes, I did.
And then
And they were really good. I guess they must have needed help real bad.
you kept that job for quite a while, didn't you?
Yes, I was transferred from the admitting office to the emergency room office then, and did the same thing in emergency, but I worked from 11 to 7, 11 to
Yeah, 11 to
3,
7.
11,
It was 3,
no, 3 to 11.
3 to 11, yeah, because I
3 to
remember
11.
those days because you take a little nap in the morning or something.
And I had Wednesdays and Sundays off, so that it worked out real well for me to go to church.
You said Wednesdays and Sundays off?
And every other weekend I had Saturday too.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that, meeting the people and getting down their information. Then the doctors would also ask me to call other doctors down in Norfolk and things like that. We had to be responsible to be there and help them out.
Well, what
So
you said a little while ago
I
about
worked there 5 years.
you said you had great peace. I remember Psalm 119, 165 says,
Right.
great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. You seem like you don't seem to be offended by too many things, to me anyway.
No,
Do you feel like that?
I do. I feel like that. And always the perfect, he gives perfect peace. And we had a song we sang about that perfect
So
peace.
you
He
take
giveth
things
us-
just the way
Oh,
they come?
What's that verse? He gives perfect peace. There's a verse in the Bible about a kid. Well,
give-
thou wilt give him perfect peace.
Oh,
Well,
whose
he-
mind is stayed
Stayed on him.
on
Yes,
him.
yes,
Okay.
that was my
Yeah.
favorite.
Yeah.
And verses of it that I learned even as a child would come back. And I studied the Bible every morning by the BBN. There's Dr. McGee and Charles
Stanley?
No, the other Charles, up in
Swindoll.
Swindon, and others. And in the morning I would do that, and Debbie would off to college, and you would come home after school. She was supposed to be fixing supper for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I worked 3 to
Yeah,
11.
that's right. Those were the Burdette years.
Right. So I would come home, and sometimes I would have car trouble. I remember 2 or 3 times especially. You know, after 11 o'clock, going down those dark roads.
Uh-huh.
And I turned this corner, and the old car was cutting off, the lights were cutting down. And I said, oh, and then a car came creeping along behind me, and I thought, Lord, help if be somebody to help me, you know, because you don't know what kind of people are around there. You know the community, but there's all other people traveling too. Well, anyway, they drove up beside me, and this lady looked in there, and she said, Mrs. Kissinger? And I said, yes. And she said, what can we do to help you? And I said, well, would you please go back there and tell Bobby to come and help me? And Bobby just lived up on the corner.
Yeah,
I had just
Bobby
turned.
Fowler.
So Bobby came over, and he was always friendly and laughing and joking about things. He never did get mad about anything, I don't think.
Yeah.
So he helped get the car home, and of course it was alternator or something like that, and got it fixed the next day.
Yeah.
And I had that happen several times. I was right in Franklin one time, and I had a flat tire right on where I was parked on the curb, you know. And this man came along and said, oh, let me help you with the flat tire. And he got in there and fixed my flat tire. One time out in Burdette, a little black boy got off the school bus and saw me with a flat tire, and he came over there and fixed my changed the tire, that's all he did. But I think the Lord just protected me over and over. I probably don't even know how many times the Lord protected me.
Yeah.
And all the kids.
So how old were you then?
I was 54 when Daddy died.
Oh, okay.
He was, yeah.
That must have been tough having to go out to work at that stage in your life.
Yeah, and I couldn't get Social Security. The children that were in school got Social Security. You remember that?
No.
And then they gave checks to me, and that's what we lived on until I became
Oh,
62
we got
while I was
checks and we
working.
gave them to you.
So that was,
Because you weren't old enough to start collecting.
yeah, I had to be 62. So that was quite a while.
Yeah.
But I was working there, and then we moved to Suffolk, you know, when I got work there. I mean, we got work, we moved to Portsmouth,
Oh.
Debbie and I.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I guess you had already married.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got work there with the
You worked in Portsmouth, huh?
with Division of Child Support,
Oh, okay.
government thing. And I just was a receptionist there, and all these people would come in. I need to see what did they call it? Not, I don't know, somebody that works with her, a case anyway. And they would have 2 or 3 children with him. And my husband hasn't paid up. You need to get on him. He hasn't paid, and keeping my child. So
And you
child
took out
support.
your whip and...
Well, it's similar to the one with, I don't think. But
Similar to that? Similar to taking out a whip? I said you took out your whip.
oh, took out my whip. No, I didn't have to do anything about it. The other people had to do that. I just gave the information over to the people that worked with
Oh, okay.
them. Yeah.
And how long did you stay with Debbie? Just a little while?
She stayed with me until she got married.
That's right. That's right. She was staying with you.
And then she went to live with Bob.
Yeah.
And then I also had another job that did Medicare input to the data input, you know, into the computer. All these numbers and numbers. Keep in there, keep in there.
So that's why you're so good on a computer.
I'm not that good. But anyway, I did it. For a
Well, you
while.
did make a comment to me one time that you said it was hard to find people your age that could do
It is.
computer.
There's very few
Facebook
older
and
people.
email. What else do you do anyway? besides Facebook and email?
I do my banking.
Do you banking online?
I made a big flub up this last week, so.
We don't want to hear that.
Oh, but Ruthie helped me get it straightened out. I paid one bill 3 times, and one of them was $4,000.
$5,790
And emptied
$57.
my account, and the bank says, "Whoa!" Sent me an email.
$4,000 overdrawn.
But I found out the dumb mistake I made.
And you're laughing about it, so you must have been able to fix the problem.
I
Huh?
guess I laugh at more things than I ought to. Life is very complicated, and here you talking about connecting all this stuff. It's just I don't understand a word of it, you
That's
know.
okay, because we don't understand
But
either.
I don't have to do that. I get somebody else to do it. Whenever something goes wrong with my
A lot of
computer,
younger people don't understand that.
Yeah, that's right. It takes a trial and error.
so I holler at Ruth whenever my computer goes wrong. She gets it straight. Paul will too, if he's around, you know.
Yeah.
In fact, Paul is the one that taught me, first of all. Well, I took a course at the college there in Portsmouth, but I didn't learn much. I didn't learn much more than I already knew. And so when I came down here, it was before I moved down here. He set me up with internet, with email and everything.
And you
so
say
when I
Paul,
went back
which
to
Paul was
Portsmouth-
that?
Paul Oren.
Oh, Paul Orange set you up?
So he gave me my email address and got me started with that. So when I went back to that little house in Zuni, where Miss Miller's little house, I had it all set up with a recorder. What do you call it? A copier. No, what do you call it?
Yeah.
Total
No, the thing that you copy. Copier.
Is
copy?
it-
Yeah.
You call a copier usually.
Okay. It's, anyway. And so I could copy things off, and I could do my email, and write letters, and all kinds of things. I learned typing in high school.
I think that, when you said that your mama used to send letters out to you and your sister. I guess she sent it to all of them.
Handwritten letters. She
Yeah.
would send it to me, and I would write on it and send it to, it seemed like we did it that way first, send it to Verna or somebody, and she'd send it to the next one and next one. But after a while, I think she sent a letter to each one of us. She would write a letter all during the week, like Monday she'd start in or Sunday. And the next day she'd write what they did, and what they ate, and where they went, and sent this letter to each one of us, and we would write back to her. And that was really neat. She did that for many years.
I thought that might be what kind of disciplined you for doing the Facebook thing, because that's now how you keep track with all of your
It is.
family.
And Verna and Ralph and George and Jean and I keep up with now. Once a month, we usually write an email to each other.
Oh, okay. So
Tell them
you're
what
still
we did all
using the
that
email
month.
too?
Yeah, and how our kids are doing and everything. That's a good way for us. We also call each other once in a while.
Oh, yeah. The good old telephone. That's a good way.
Yeah. Well, it's the little telephone now.
Yeah.
Little email, little
Cell phone.
cell phones. Yeah. But going to church has been all my life. And
Oh, yeah. That's what I was going to ask
working
you.
in church.
You said that was one of the things that you and Bill, your husband, had in common is y'all both wanted to serve the Lord.
Right.
Did you what did you have in mind? Y'all just knew that was going to be some kind of a
And music. See, he had had 2 years of music at Moody Bible, and
music was right up your alley because you played the piano.
and that was kind of the thing that brought us together. We would go to the practice room and practice together.
Well, you said that he was doing chalk talks. How was the earliest he did that?
He did them when he was working with George, before we were married.
Did he do all the fancy lights then, or was it just a chalk talk?
He had a black light, I think, forever. Because that was really amazing, you know, to get that lights to shine on the screen.
So there must have been
And the
fluorescent
colored
chalk.
chalk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
black light chalk. Did you play the piano? When was the first time you started playing the piano if he did the chalk talk?
I didn't go with him before we were married.
So it was
So-
after you were married you
After
took
we married,
and then
yeah, we planned out programs for on the hymn basis or theme, a hymn theme or something, or salvation theme or whatever that went with this picture. And I had the music to go along with it. And sometimes he would break out and sing just while he was
I
up
feel like I remember him doing that one time.
You didn't see them do that, did you?
Yeah, I did. I remember him doing that. He sang. I think he was getting ready. He was preaching a sermon or something. He stopped and sung the song or something. One time. That's all I
He
remember.
used to do that, I know, when he was doing a chalk talk.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say before I cut this off?
No, wait a little while and see.